Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Inside the Cartoonist Mind, Creativity in Challenging Times. My name is Rob Rogers, and I'm a political cartoonist. And I'm joined by Nicaraguan political cartoonist, Pedro X. Molina. And there he is waving. Thank you all for your patience. We're still getting a few people coming in. This event was organized by the Ithaca City of Asylum in conjunction with the Tompkins County Public Library and is funded by the Freedom to Read Foundation, affiliated with the American Library Association. I am honored to be a part of the program, thanks to all of the entities that made this possible. Pedro, why don't you take a minute and tell people why you're here and who you are?
Sure, thank you, Rob. Hi, everybody. Like Rob was saying, I am from Nicaragua. I have been doing political or editorial cartoons for more than 20 years, most of the time in Nicaragua, but unfortunately, I had to leave Nicaragua in 2018 because of the repression of the government against the people in general, and especially against independent media. So I'm living right now here in the US. I keep doing cartoons about Nicaraguan for Nicaraguan media, but also for US media and other publications around the world. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Pedro. And as I mentioned, my name is Rob Rogers. I'm a political cartoonist living in Pittsburgh, although I'm not in Pittsburgh right now, but I worked for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette for 25 years. Before that, I worked for the Pittsburgh Press for 9 years. So I've been doing this for a long time. I'm now freelance because back in 2018, after 25 years at the Post-Gazette, I was fired for drawing cartoons critical of Donald Trump. So, so that's been quite a journey for me. And it's been exciting to to get out there and sort of figure out what's happening in the freelance world, but I have also very dedicated to the field of political cartooning, and so I continue to do it. What I'd like to show you first is, even though I'm not in my studio today, I have a video that I can share, and we're going to start with it's about 11 minutes long, and it's a video of me just going through my sketchbook with you. So let me do that real quick. And we'll just see what this is like here. Okay. Did that work, or is the screen sharing? Okay, good. All right, so. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my studio. This is my drafting table and my light table there, and you can also see my sketchbook. And we're going to talk a little bit about how I come up with my ideas and how I write them out in my sketchbook, and then how that eventually turns into a finished cartoon. So let's get started. Most days I start out with a blank page, and it looks like this. And I have to start, by writing things down. And there may be, usually I start with the date. I'll write the date first, and then I will start writing different things down. Like this is from December. This is 2019, Ukraine conspiracy, Trump at NATO. This is this was a sketch that I ended up finishing and drawing about the impeachment. Trump was complaining about how we weren't paying enough attention to low flush toilets and plumbing, and so he was claiming that people were flushing their toilets 25 times, which is ridiculous. But I thought, oh, I'm just going to put him in the toilet and show how difficult it was to impeach him. He's saying you got to flush 10 or 15 times to get rid of me. And this is the kind of idea that comes to me kind of instantly, and I'll just sketch it out real quick. Other times, I'll draw something and it'll take several times to get through it. There's just a lot going on here. Other times I'll do cartoons that, you know, like this one where both of them are coming down on the nuclear bomb. This was going to be a New Year's cartoon, and I never ended up drawing that one. So so there's a lot of sketches in here that never end up making it onto the page. But of course, many of them do. So that's what we're here to talk about. I'll do a quick drawing of Trump here for you. Just really, really fast, so don't judge me on this. But oh, actually, I started backwards. His hair actually parts on the other side, but that's okay. We'll go with it. This is like super fast, and this is how I would sketch him, but I would never, you know, I would never do it this quickly when I was working on it. But you know. The crazy thing is I've drawn him so much now that I can pretty much draw him without too much thought. And of course, one of the things that's fun about drawing Trump is, you know, he has a tendency to wear his ties really long. And so as a cartoonist, you know, we pick up on things like that and we exaggerate them. And so, so for me, of course, you know, I started, just like George W. Bush's ears, I started to exaggerate the tie to the point where it now, you know, really does just go on forever. And sometimes I have to figure out creative ways to, you know, to sort of get the tie to go in there and to do something fun with it. And you know, I kind of just make up stuff as I go along, but how about that? That seems to work for me. So anyway, this is my sketchbook, and this is where I do all my sketches, and I find it very, very helpful to sketch things out first before going to the final. But there are some cartoons that I go directly to the final because the idea comes to me so fast. This is an example of one of those cartoons. I was driving with my wife on the day that it was announced that Pennsylvania went for Biden, and we were just driving after that announcement, and we were seeing some people honking their horns and protesting, you know, cheering for Biden, and I just said, "One plague down, one to go," and it just came out of my mouth, and I thought, "Oh, that's a cartoon." So so I came right home and I just drew it very quickly. And sometimes that happens, but more often than not, I really have to kind of sit for a long time and try to come up with something good. Here's sort of a typical day in my sketchbook. This was back in May. Sometimes I write a lot of stuff and sometimes I don't write that much. In this particular case, I had a lot of different topics I could be working on. Everything from graduation during a pandemic to messing with the election. Yeah, you know, this was back in May and Trump was already messing with the election. Opening the churches, we passed 100,000 death toll. And actually, well, new watchdogs, Trump's new watchdog, I guess, was the idea, because he was firing different people. I ended up drawing this cartoon next door here that shows Trump golfing during the 100,000 deaths, and of course he's standing on a COVID virus. Anyway, sometimes I have a lot of stuff written. Other times I have very little written. I'd like to take you to a specific date. This is in September, and you can see some of the sketches that I've done over the time. So again, here's some of the, you know, back to school, Trump's money chest, a George Wallace-like campaign. I ended up doing a cartoon about Dick and Jane going back to school during the virus. Sometimes I have just a sketch that I like and I have to improve it a little bit, so I'll do it on the next page. And then, so there's one about Bill Barr. And then, okay, here we are. So on this particular day, the day before I had done a cartoon about QAnon, and that's what you see here. QAnon, Democrats, Joe Biden says he wants to be the, and I don't even remember what that thought was, but I didn't finish whatever thought I had there. But so these two sketches here are about the QAnon cartoon, but then the next day I was working on one. I had read the New York Times, and the front page of the New York Times had several stories, you know, dealing with climate change. You had wildfires in California, and you had flooding in other parts of the world, and so I just felt like I needed to do something about that topic. So here I have a sketch. I started out on this page, and then you can see I continued it onto the next page. I'll show you that in a second. But here we have the sort of the image of a tornado. And then here you can see I started to draw a guy's face, you know, with the fire and the wave. And then over here I sort of perfected it a little bit better on the next page. So basically what I was thinking when I was reading the story is, here we have Trump denying science, and you have people going around saying climate change isn't real. And I thought to myself, well, what if all these, you know, different catastrophes happen to somebody all in the same day? Maybe then they would believe in science. I mean, these are the kind of weird thoughts I have. Thank you. All right, wait, I gotta stop the video too, because otherwise it'll play something else. I'll figure that out in a second. But anyway, in the meantime, can you hear me now? Yes, okay, good. So that was just a quick tour of my sketchbook, not very quick, but a tour of my sketchbook, and I hope that everybody enjoyed that. I'll be back showing some more cartoons in a minute, but now I turn it over to Pedro, and he's going to show us some of his work.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. That was amazing. It's always, you know, like magical for me to see how other cartoonists work. It's I'm still I can be a cartoonist, but I'm still, you know, the very young cartoon fan and I never stop being like that. So it's amazing. So I'm going to share right now a few samples of my work and how I work. Let's see if that's working. Okay. Yeah, it seems so. All right. This is a cover I did a while ago. There was a publication who wanted me to do something about how I felt as a cartoonist in this new great war of social media and how I approached my job in these times. So I came up with this idea, you know, which is pretty much what cartoonists do every day. They face a blank sheet of paper. In this case, it's a white ball. And you hit it with your cartoon and then just send it, you know, you upload it on the web and you expect the reaction of the readership. So sometimes it can be something funny, like, you know, you can laugh at it. Some people may get mad about your cartoon. Some people, you know, may be shocked by your cartoon. Some people may be angry, disgusted, you know. So that's the way, that's the thing that we deal with it as a cartoonist every day. So sorry for my bad English, you know, I'm from Nicaragua, so just in case. So how do I work? Pretty similar to what Rob does, but right now, because of my situation, I am not, of course, in my studio in Nicaragua where I could show you my sketchbooks and that kind of stuff. But because of that, right now I'm doing everything digital. I have been doing my final cartoons digital for many, many years now. Since 2008, I went full digital. But my sketching of my ideas, I will always do them with a blue big pen. It had to be blue all the time. Yeah, I don't know, it's something magic about the big blue pen and in my sketchbooks. But since I can't do that around here because there is not too much room for a lot of sketches, I do everything digital. So I use an iPad to do these sketches and some finished cartoons. So here's one of the sketches that I did a while ago. This was back on the time when everybody was talking about Trump getting COVID and how he will be, by the way he was behaving because of the COVID. It could, you know, cause a lot of trouble because a lot of trouble will see that if he wasn't paying attention to the illness, then a lot of people will not. So I did this one of the sketches that I did about that, 2 ways in which masks can help prevent COVID-19 spread. You know, and this is Trump holding his cell phone and not being able to tweet about it. This was another one. It is what it is, you know. I was taking advantage of a very famous Trump photo and his impact regarding the COVID pandemic in the US. And then I did this other one, and it says back of makeup. And those were the sketches that I was playing with that day. This cartoon was done for Counterpoint. Rob is also there. There's a bunch of cartoonists in there who help each other, you know, by the way, because we have a chat and we put our sketches and then we'll see what the rest think of them. And guess which one was the one who I ended up finishing that day? So yeah, it was this one. So this is the finished cartoon. A couple of colleagues told me, look, you don't need the caption. So, because as you can see, I had a caption on this one. Get rid of it, you don't need it. So that was a very good piece of advice, because I always love the cartoons that doesn't have a lot of text on them, because it's less text for me to translate when I have to do it on Spanish and then later in English. So this is the finished one. I did this one on Photoshop. I have a tablet, digital tablet, in which I can draw right on the screen. So it's pretty much the same as I was working on paper, but it's faster, you know, because you don't have to wait for the color to dry to put another layer of it. So it's pretty fast. Here is another one, another series of sketches. This was, I had to do a cartoon on Monday before election, right? So I was playing with the ideas, how people were feeling at the time. And this is one of the sketches that I did at the time. Don't worry, the polls may be right this time, wrong again. And everybody was worried about that. This was one of my favorite sketches that day, election day. It's Xanax or Valium. You know, that's the election day. And then the undecided. Do you think the 2020 election will go the same route than the 2000 or the 2016 one? And then I also did this one, where the ghost of election past. I was playing with the idea of how the past experience with elections was affecting the mood of US people. And then guess which one I ended up doing? You know, I really like it, this one. I think, I don't know if that's true, but Rob, this was your favorite, right? That was the one
I voted for, yeah.
Yeah. I really like it, this one. But then, okay, let's try, because this one came in second. Mm-hmm. And okay, because of the lawsuits and the polls and everything, okay, let's do this one. So here is the finished one. This was also done in Photoshop. And it was fun to draw, of course. Here is another bunch of sketches. This was after the election, right? And then we have Trump that says, don't worry, Don, you still have a few cards to play. And you can see from his side that it reads fraud. And then on the mirror, it says loser. And I really like it, this one, but anyway, even when you have a good idea, you kind of have to force yourself to come up with another idea. So even when you end up maybe doing this, the first one, it's always a good exercise to try to come up with a few more. And here's another one. This one was a little bit more complex. And now the question, it will be enough, you know, to elect Biden-Harris about everything that the US as a country will have to face, not just the pandemic, but the lies, the ignorance, the conspiracies, the racism, the hate, the division of the country. So this was a good idea, but maybe too serious, I don't know. Anyway, this was another one, election day, stop the count, Trump ahead, you know, you remember the election day, Trump was ahead. So the day after, Trump behind, keep counting. Then today, the day I did that one, Trump lose, recount tomorrow. Trump is lost, count doesn't count. So I still like that one. I may be finished at some point, but and then I also did this one. And this one I did it because, okay, let's try myself and try one more time. And so I came over and I did this very quick sketch. It says, you can't fire me. I don't quit. And that's the one I ended up doing. Funny thing about this one in particular, sometimes I am sure that this happens also to Rob all the time. When you are doing your sketch, from time to time, you will find a little piece of the sketch that you are so happy with it that you want to do it the same way on the final cartoon. And you are never, almost never able to do that. So in this particular cartoon, this sketch, I really loved my Trump, you know, the sketch of Trump, the hair, his hand, the tie, everything. And I tried to replicate that on the final cartoon, and I was not able to. I still like this one better, But that's one of the things with this media. You have a deadline, you have to make it. And this is the one that I did, right? Now I'm going to show you some cartoons from that I have done for Nicaragua media, but this first one is not about Nicaragua. Let's see. All right. So let's see. This one, the character I'm drawing right here, this is Oscar Arias. I don't know, maybe some of you may remember him. He's the former president of Costa Rica. He was very famous in the 80s because he helped achieve a very important peace agreement on the Central America region at that time. And he actually ended up winning the Nobel Peace Prize at that time. But this cartoon, I did it very recently because he was accused of sexual harassment. And when you notice, it seems to be like a pattern on his life, throughout his life. So I ended up doing this cartoon of him. And of course, I had to include the Nobel Peace Prize on it. And that's the way I use it, to hide his misery as a person. But anyway, that's how I did that one. That one, it was done on Procreate, an app that you can use to draw on iPad. So I did that one on the iPad Pro. Here is another one. Let's see. Okay. This one, it was done, this is actually from Nicaragua. We had a dictatorship down there. The president is Daniel Ortega, and the vice president, it's his wife, Rosario Murillo. And they have been in power for many, many years in Nicaragua. And since 2018, they have been killing a lot of people just because, they were protesting on the streets. And then the pandemic hit this year, and they didn't acknowledge the pandemic as a serious problem. They didn't shut down the country. They basically just sit and not do nothing. So this is a cartoon that talks a little bit about all the death going on in Nicaragua, and they just don't caring about it, right? And this is another one that I did on Procreate. I do my sketch, I do the line drawing, and then I will go and add color to it. And one thing that I also do with these things is that every week I do a video for a show that goes online to talk about a topic of that day, and these videos are used on that time. Right now in Nicaragua, they just passed 3 laws to criminalize independent media and the freedom of opinion in my country. And those laws were copied from Russian laws that Putin is using in Russia. So what I did, okay, so this is a photocopy of the laws that Putin is using in Russia. And Daniel Ortega is using those same laws and applying those same laws in Nicaragua while accusing everybody else of being, puppets of the people outside. So puppets of other countries. So I did this one, which is pretty much Putin, taking a photocopy of his behind and turning out to be Daniel Ortega itself. So that's another one. And the last one, just to not get too bored. So because of, we are, Nicaragua, we are we say in Spanish, very salados. We have very, very bad luck. We have a dictatorship, and then we had the pandemic who hit us pretty hard. And just about a couple of weeks ago, we had 2 hurricanes in less than 2 weeks who devastated the whole Atlantic coast in my country. And the good thing for the dictators at that time is that because of that, they were able to get money from the international community. So they ended up getting millions on aid for the people, but of course, you know, the people will not see a penny of that aid money. So this is one that says pandemic and hurricanes, you know, led millions to dictatorship. For better things to come, she says, and he says, yeah, like a earthquake, you know, because it's basically the only thing we are missing, and that's pretty much the stuff that I do every day. Thank you. That would be it.
Wow, that was great. I have a quick, since we just saw your stuff, I want to ask you a question before I show some more of my cartoons, but sure. I noticed that your style changes between cartoons, like the one with Trump and the shadow on his face, the orange pandemic shadow. That was very painterly, and it looked like you used, like you said, an oil painting or something. But then, like the last one with the dead bodies stacked up kind of reminded me of Mad Magazine or something. Yeah. So I guess my question is, how do you decide how painterly or how cartoony you're going to be in one cartoon or another? Because I pretty much draw everything the same, you know. I mean, right. My style.
Yeah, I know.
But I love that you're able to vacillate between these different worlds. So talk about that.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I decided to base it on. Sometimes it's because the idea. Mm-hmm. The idea, maybe if the idea is very simple and I have the time to add a layer of art that could really improve that idea, then I go for it. So basically, I choose having two things in mind. The idea, it will be better if I do it in this style or not. And then the second is time, because of course, you need a lot of more time to do something like the Trump portrait than to do these things. But anyway, I have to do all of them in a single day anyway. So it depends if I have half an hour, because I don't know if it's the same with you, I suppose it is. But sometimes, you know, if you were talking about percentages of our working time, sometimes 80% of that time it's spent thinking about the ideas. And then most of the time you have, you know, just 20% of the day to actually draw the cartoon. Yeah. So it depends on if I had the idea very quick and I have enough time to do something more painterly and the idea will benefit from that, I will go for it. Then if not, I will go from some other approach. But the reason that I do that is basically because I get bored if I am drawing all the time in the same style. Yeah.
No, that's fascinating. All right. Well, since we're talking about technique, I'm gonna share my screen again and show you a little slideshow about the mind of a cartoonist, and also some techniques as well. Okay. Okay. So we'll start out with the ideas. The question I get asked the most by readers is, where do you come up with your ideas? And they always ask that question as if I go down to the corner store and get them on wholesale or something. But the ideas are tricky. They sometimes come really fast and sometimes slow. The ones that come fast are always a gift. You know, we often sit for hours trying to come up with something. So when they come really fast, it's a real gift. This was one day when I was watching the news and Netanyahu was speaking at the UN, and he was talking about Iran and their nuclear capability and how he wanted to show how close they were to having the bomb. And so he brought this illustration. And when I saw this illustration, I said to myself, wow, that looks like a cartoon bomb, you know, like a Warner Brothers Acme bomb. So I came up with this immediately, and this is Ahmadinejad saying, okay, who leaked our nuclear bomb design to Netanyahu? And there at the table, of course, is Wile E. Coyote looking very guilty. Another one that came pretty fast to me was a cartoon about the CIA and interrogation and torture. And Cheney is denying, refuses to call it torture, even though they had the torture report came out. So I thought of him, and I thought of civil liberties and all of that. And I thought, well, what if he was the Statue of Liberty? What would it look like? And so here he is with the torture handbook, and he's saying, bring us your huddled masses yearning to be waterboarded. So the cartoonist brain. So many decades, actually a couple decades ago, I did an illustration for an editor's magazine where they wanted to know what the difference, how the cartoonist and the editor got along. So I came up with this illustration, the cartoonist brain versus the editor's brain. So here's the cartoonist brain. And the biggest thing on his or her mind, I guess, is toilet humor, in my case. Winning a Pulitzer, then keeping his or her job. And that one, I've given this talk for many years where I show this cartoon, and I never really thought of, I felt like my colleagues were losing their jobs, but mine was pretty safe at the time. So to see this cartoon again, that one, keeping his or her job, that one is really important. Anyway, the tiniest part of the cartoonist brain, that is taste. And then we have the editor's brain, and there's a lot more things on the editor's mind. Things like not offending the readers, keeping the publisher happy, winning a Pulitzer also, kissing up to advertisers, the bottom line, and then that tiny, tiny little part of the editor's brain, that's sense of humor. So you can see the two of them don't really match up very well. And I've had some editors over the years that have been difficult, but I was also lucky to have two great editors at the Post-Gazette for most of the time I was there. So it is important to have a good editor. Here's an illustration I did back in 2016. What does it take to create a 2016 campaign cartoon? Let me draw you a picture. Step one, find a topic that begs for satire. GOP candidates compare penis size. Hello. You remember that at the debate when they were talking about that. Step two, choose a perfect metaphor. I can't draw genitals in a family newspaper, but hands are okay. And things with small hands, baby, watch, T-Rex. Step three, create a rough sketch using your favorite sketching tool. I don't recommend the fork. It's very difficult unless you're drawing in mashed potatoes, then it works. Trumpzilla, here we have, this is actually a sketch from my sketchbook. Some cartoonists sketch with a pen like I do. Some use a pencil. And some use a tablet. I used to have an Etch-a-Sketch. Did everybody have an Etch-a-Sketch when they were growing up? Okay. They're very hard to use, by the way. Step four, transfer the sketch using a light table or some other form of black magic. I still draw all of mine by hand, so I use a light table. As Pedro was saying, some cartoonists do it all digitally, so they can put things in layers and have their own virtual light table. Step five, ink the cartoon using your inking tool of choice. Step six, add color, either by hand. I was a painting major in college, although it might not show. And then, or digitally. Why isn't this working? So I end up doing, for a while I was hand coloring things when it wasn't a daily cartoon, but then when everything went to the internet and everybody was doing, oh, I forgot step seven here. Step seven, stand back and watch as readers react to your brilliance. I don't get it. Give it a sec. I still don't get it. Give it another sec. I don't have all day. And then there below, you can see the three stages of the cartoon, and I'll show you, here's the final image. My small hands don't seem to be slowing me down at all. And he's stomping on conventional wisdom and unity and other things as he goes. But what I was saying is, for a while there, I would occasionally do a color piece in the Post-Gazette, and once a week I did a local cartoon that was in color. So I did all my color by hand. But then when it became a daily thing, I learned how to do it in Photoshop, and it was much faster and also safer because you could change things on the fly without ruining your original. Oh, here's how it appeared in the paper back when I was with the Post-Gazette. Just to show you, I use this slide just to demonstrate the impact of an image, because cartooning, the thing that editors both love and hate about us is that our cartoons jump off the page and they can't be ignored in the same way that you can ignore all the text around it. So they really didn't like fighting with us all the time in visual ways and in real ways. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna share one other thing with you. If I can bring up my Photoshop here real quick. And let me open up another, let's see. Yeah, this one. Okay, so the first one I showed you, so I start out with a black and white line art, and this is the one I showed in the video where that I inked in by hand, and then what I do is
hey Rob, you have to stop sharing this screen to be able to share the Photoshop one again.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot. Okay, thank you for thank you for reminding me. I forgot you can't just go from one thing to another. All right, here we go. Now
there you go.
Okay. All right. So so what I do is here I'll turn this layer off. I have an old layer of what's called duo shade or unishade graphics board that I used to use back in the old days, and then when they stopped making it, I printed a full sheet of it so that I could use it in Photoshop. And now I just pull it into Photoshop and I can use it as a layer. So what happens is I put a layer of white on top and I use my brush. And this is only for the black and white art. So when I send it to the syndicate or in the old days when I sent it to the newspaper, it would be, it would be a black and white image, and then I would send them a color one as well. Okay, wait a second, this isn't working. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you can see how I can eliminate the white, and then it creates the effect. And then so when I do that with a careful brush, it ends up looking like this. So that's my black and white, and then I'll switch over to the color. So what I do is the nice thing about that is then my black and white has a layer, and I can just transfer it into color. So I save it as a black and white image first, then I come over and I resave it as a color image. And so that layer of black and white is still in there. Well, I added some other color in there in the background to give it more shadow. But so yeah, so there's the black and white layer again, and I just paint in the colors or drop them in depending on how much there is that's connected. But that's basically it, and I do all the color in Photoshop, and it's made it a little bit easier for me. All right, so back to you, sir. Pedro.
All right, I'm going to show you right now the closer to an original that you can get in digital. Not this one. But let me bring up, I think it's gonna be this one. No. Yeah, this is one of my Nicaraguan cartoons, one of the recent ones. And here are all the layers that I use. Sometimes I use a lot, sometimes use, if you see at the right of the screen, you will see all the layers that I use. Some are the text that you are seeing on the cartoon. And some other are, the line art. I can remove the color. So basically what I do is that I ink like I was inking in actual paper, Here you can see. And then I will add the color, and then I will add background or shadows or something that I could need. Some special effects if I need them. And then I will add the text of the cartoon, if I'm using levels or anything, or tags that I have to add to the characters, then I will add those. And then this is pretty much the final cartoon. Then I just flatten the image, and that's the one that I sent to be published. Most of the time, I focus more on what, like I was saying, what the cartoon in particular it's required from me. It's required to do it more painterly or to use line work or anything like that. And then I go from there. But this is the closest that you will get to seeing an original in, you know, in a digital era. Actually, there are some artists, I don't know if you knew this, Rob, by the way, but there are some artists who actually sell their PSDs files over the web
really?
to fans. Yeah, they charge something like $15 or something like that, and then the fans are able to download the PSD and dissect the cartoon, you know, or the illustration to find out what the artist was using to create the image. So that's basically how I do it, and I do it with on screen like this. Unfortunately, I'm not able to draw a lot right now, but anyway, you get the idea. This is a line work, then you create another layer behind it, and then you add color in that layer, and that's how it works, you know, something like this. And your layer on top stays clear. So that's how it works. Yeah, if you want, Rob, we can go ahead and take questions from the audience.
Katie from the Tompkins Public Library is going to join us with some questions. Katie?
Okay. Hey, yeah, we've got a lot of great questions in the chat. So let's see. How much do cartoonists compete and collaborate with each other?
Ooh.
A lot.
Well, you know, they compete a lot. I don't know how much they collaborate with each other, although I have had relationships with cartoonists over the years that I always, you know, I'll always call them up. I have a couple of good friends that I call up and just say, hey, does this make sense? You know, is this a good idea? And then, of course, I've known other cartoonists who have several pairs of political cartoonists have paired up to do comic strips. I know that happens a lot too. So so there is a lot of collaboration, but I think there's a lot of competition too, because what it is there's only so many ideas out there, and the news breaks and you want to be the first one to do the idea that you think is the best, and you're afraid that if you see someone else has done it, then it's going to ruin your day. So there is a lot of competition in that way too.
Yeah. There is, and also the experience is different from country to country. For example, in Spain, it's very common that you will find a couple of artists working together to do cartoons for newspapers. One will write the idea and the other one will illustrate it. And that has been very common in Spain, especially. You know, Gallego y Rey, for example. They are two persons working and in doing a daily cartoon every day for a newspaper in Spain. Idigo Razipachi, several people. Myself, in the past, I have done collaborations with other cartoonists. I will write a script, for example, for a comic story, and some other cartoonists will actually draw that comic. So there is always collaboration going on. And in Counterpoint right now, all the cartoonists who are in Counterpoint, we get a say on the sketches of the rest, you know, to say, look, this is great, this is not working very well, you could do something about this idea. So it's very collaborative effort. Even when you will find cartoonists that are very, very on the left, a bunch of cartoonists who are very, very on the right. So it's very interesting how everybody, it's putting politics aside and trying to help the other one to bring the best with their work. I think that's great.
Yeah, I'll just explain a little bit. Counterpoint is a newsletter that was started, I guess, last year, wasn't it? Or the year before. I can't remember how long it's been going. But they have liberal and conservative cartoonists that go out in the same email. And sometimes they try to work on the same topic. Other times they're very much opposed. But what was interesting about the experiment to me is to see how many conservative cartoonists were actually drawing anti-Trump cartoons.
Oh yeah,
it's interesting. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially when you get to go head to head with somebody and try to do opposing views. It's kind of nice. Anyway, another
This one's
question?
kind of a follow-up to that. Trump was such a big topic. Now that he's lost, what do you think you'll be focusing on, or do you still plan to kind of continue focusing on Trump for a little longer?
He lost? Is that true? I thought he's been telling us he won. I'm confused. You've rocked my world here. I don't know what to say. No, actually, I've been thinking about this a lot because, you know, on the one hand, I'm so sick of drawing Trump that I'm looking forward to doing other things. But at the same time, it has been, you know, 4 years of intense concentration from him. And he makes it impossible to ignore him. And you know, not to mention that people who say, oh, just you can't respond to everything he does. Okay, but he's also the president of the United States. So things that he does, even if just on a tweet or on a whim, they still matter. So yeah, it's going to be hard. I don't know. I mean, I'm really hoping that Biden starts tweeting every day and starts, you know, inviting all of his family members to be part of the administrations, and then they get into some corruption. I really hope that happens.
As a citizen, you're a cartoonist, you know, but you're also a citizen. In my case, in Nicaragua, the first cartoon that I have ever drawn, I did it when I was 17. And my first cartoon was a cartoon of Daniel Ortega. And more than 20 years now, I'm still drawing the same guy. Believe me, I would love to draw somebody else. I'm so sick of this guy. So as a citizen, you know, maybe it will be, maybe the next one who come in will not be as funny or as ridiculous as this one or his wife. Because if you saw my cartoons, you may think, oh my God, this man is so mean with his wife, the way he draws her, for example. But if you see the original, you could see that I'm actually, you know, keeping it there, you know. So that's the things that happen. So I don't miss any politician. There is always something that will come up and will be good for your work. And as a matter of fact, I would love to see, like I was saying, some change in Nicaragua in that regard.
I've always said that it's, you know, I think it wasn't Lee Iacocca at General Motors that said, what's good for General Motors is good for America. And I think what's good for editorial cartooning is not good for America.
It's not good for America. Yeah.
So I remember when Bush, I thought, you know, George W. Bush was the worst, and I thought we'd never find anybody like him. And then look what happened. So, you know,
it's a scary thought. Can you imagine somebody worse than
Trump? Yeah, I know. And listen, don't get me wrong. As a citizen, I fully believe that we need to be on a better path as a country, and we need better leaders. So I'm not sort of suggesting that it would be great if we had another, you know, despotic leader in there. But anyway. Next question.
Well, do you feel emotionally burdened by having to consider these matters so deeply every day?
Ooh.
It's a lot of emotional labor for you guys to really think it through and come up with stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you are forced to draw about killings, you know, as often as I have to do it in Nicaragua. It does, you know, it's pretty difficult. And what I have found is that when you can't be funny, what you at least try is to connect with the rest of the people is feeling at the time. Mm-hmm. If they are feeling, you know, sorry, if they are feeling desperate, if they are feeling sad or down because of what is happening in the country, then you have to connect with them, trying to bring them hope, trying to tell them, look, you're not the only one who's feeling that way. I am feeling this way too. And trying to connect with people. I think that's the most important thing. I really love Rob's work because most of the time he's hilarious, you know. He uses a lot of humor. He's very clever, and that's great. I wish I could be like that all the time. I can't. A lot of my cartoons are not cartoons to laugh at, you know. they are more to think about what is happening down there. And sometimes they are pretty much, you know, denouncing what is happening and in my country. So yeah,
I mean,
it's hard.
Yeah, I echo everything he said, but I also would say that in some ways, it's easier to have this as an outlet when these difficult stories come along, or when, you know, you have all this frustration built up about, you know, leadership in government or things that are happening, environmental or gun control or whatever it is. At least we have a soapbox and we can, you know, stand up on it and draw. And that's a nice outlet to have. And some people, you know, have said to me, well, you're lucky to have that outlet, because I just bang my head on the wall, you know,
exactly.
dead. But so it does feel good to have that outlet, but it also is very emotionally taxing when you can't ignore it, you know, because I know a lot of people just turn off the TV or they turn off the news and they don't look at it, and we kind of have to look at it. So.
Yeah, this was kind of a question following that up. Like, do you feel that your cartoons change how people think?
Ooh.
Bro?
Well,
do you got that power?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think what it is that I don't think it changes people's minds that are if they're really solidly in one camp or the other. But I have had conservatives, you know, say to me, especially when I was in the paper, people that lived in Pittsburgh, you know, they liked my local cartoons, so they would read me every day, and they would say, you know what, I didn't agree with you every day, but you always gave me a laugh, or you made me think, and that's the important thing. So and we could always talk,
exactly.
And that was, I mean, that was a different time. I'm talking about a few years ago, but I think that's the important thing, is to know that you're reaching them in some way. I don't necessarily think they change the world, but I think they still are an example of a healthy democracy. When satire is flourishing, then that means that we still live in a healthy democracy where we're not getting imprisoned for our satire. So, so I think that's good. Whether or not they change people's minds, I leave that up to them.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, for example, in my case, there is a lot of people, like Rob were saying, and this is particularly true in Nicaragua, who are not able to say everything that they would like to say about, especially my government in Nicaragua. So you have that opportunity. You have, so in a sense, you have that responsibility to be the voice of the unheard. It sounds like, you know, a little bit pretentious, but actually it is in situations like this. So you are connecting with the people in that level. It's not like you are changing minds. It's like you are letting the people to know that you are also thinking like them in a way. And then the people who are on the other side, who are actually as crazy to think that a dictatorship is something good to live with, at least you are letting them know what are the reasons why that is not bearable. And they are maybe, hopefully, thinking about it. And so, yeah, actually you are changing people's minds, or more important, make them think about what they believe, what they think. And I think that's very important. And that's something that you can do with cartooning if you do it the right way.
It sounds like you would agree. This person asked, are your cartoons an act of resistance or an attempt to heal or something else? And it sounds like you're describing an act of resistance there.
Yeah, actually, well, because of the situation we are in Nicaragua, everybody who actually, you know, Nicaragua's situation right now is so bad that you can be put in jail if you go out in the streets with a national flag. Just that fact, it's an act of resistance. Let's not talk about cartooning or journalism in general. So yeah, in a situation like that, it seems like that. Sometimes I'm troubled because a lot of people will come to me and say, well, you have a privilege because you can do this. You can say whatever it's on your mind. And I told them, look, the problem is that it shouldn't be seen as a privilege. This should be a right for everybody. And I think that's what's really important.
Well, I'll tag onto that and just say that it is also a healing thing, not just a resistance thing, because just to sort of repeat a cliche, humor is the best medicine. But I have had people tell me, you're the only thing that got me through the Trump administration, looking at your cartoons. And I think it's because you also give them especially if you're on social media, you give them an opportunity to share the cartoon and to share that frustration or share that humor with other people. And I do think when we get into serious situations, humor does help us. And
it's very important. I mean, it's not a small thing to be able to make people laugh under the circumstances we are going through right now. It's not a small thing. So, because some people will say, okay, the only thing you do, you make people laugh, or make people think for a couple of seconds, like it was a small thing. It is not a small thing, and it's not an easy thing to do, and I think it should have more value, or give it the value that actually has, just the fact of making people laugh and think at the same time.
Well, I would say our audience very much values what both of you do, and just thank you so much for being with us today. I know we're getting close to our time here, but this has just been such a treat. You've gotten so many nice compliments in the chat. I hope you guys will review it and see what everyone has said throughout. They're really
right.
We're really grateful for you and your work and for being here today. And we're really grateful to Ithaca City of Asylum for helping set this up. So it's been really great. Yeah. So if you guys if you have a last word, go ahead.
No, I'd like to thank Ithaca City of Asylum because they helped me get here and be in a safe environment and be able to continue to do my work inside Nicaragua, which I think as a citizen is the best thing that I can offer. And keep doing cartoons also for US media and some other places. So I'm very thankful for that. I am very thankful for my friendship with Rob, with all the cartoonists around here who are being very supporting. And of course, all of you who have joined us today here. Thank you for your attention and for choosing to spend an afternoon with us. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just repeat that and say thank you to the City of Asylum in Ithaca, but also the one in Pittsburgh, which got me involved in this too. They're a great organization. And thank you to the library and to all of you who are watching and reading cartoons. And thanks for your interest in cartoons, and keep following us wherever we go. Not in a creepy way, just in a good way. And thanks, Pedro. It was fun doing this with you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
Take care.
Thanks.